Hi everyone, welcome to my first tutorial, which is exciting. Today we will be making these fabric bookmarks. Really easy for beginners because you can take it different steps. You can just do the fabric bookmark by itself, or you can try some appliqué, which is what we will be doing today. We'll be making the strawberry bookmark. So the tools you'll need will be the fabric pattern. You'll also need the main and backing fabric, which I'm using the same. Some iron-on interfacing for the main and backing fabric, scrap fabric for your appliqué if you're adding any, along with some double-sided fabric adhesive, which is glue on one side and a paper on the other side. You will also need some clips or pins to hold the fabric together, some scissors, so I've got fabric, pinking shears which are optional, and embroidery for when I'm cutting out the appliqué to get into the smaller parts. Also need a tool just to push the corners out when you're sewing, a pencil and a heat erasable pen. So you're going to start by ironing all of your fabric pieces, just get rid of any creases. For the iron-on interfacing, you'll have a more matte side and then a glue side. So you'll want to apply the glue side onto the wrong side of the fabric. When ironing on the adhesive, just follow the manufacturer's instructions. So for this one, you need to put it down, put the iron onto it and just hold it there for a few seconds. What you don't want to do is do it as if you're ironing clothes, where you're dragging it along back and forth, because it could cause ripples in the fabric. Repeat the same for the appliqué fabric as well. So with your adhesive, there'll be one glue side and one paper side, so just cut it down so it's slightly smaller than your appliqué fabric. Put the glue side onto the wrong side of the fabric and press and hold for a few seconds. Back to your main fabric piece, take your main template and draw around 2 of those. Again, I'm having the same fabric on both the front and the back, so I'll draw 2 in the same pattern. I'm using a heat erasable pen, so when I iron everything down, the pen line will disappear. Do the same for your appliqué pieces, so you'll draw on the paper side of your fabric, but with this, make sure to turn your pattern piece the wrong way around. It's alright if we're doing the strawberry because it doesn't really matter with it being a strawberry, but if it's a letter, you'd want to draw the letter backwards so that when you cut out and put it the right way, the letter will be the right way around as well. So draw around your pattern pieces and cut out using your embroidery scissors. For larger pieces and for your main template, just use your fabric scissors to cut out. It allows to get you a bigger surface area, so it's much easier, whereas the embroidery scissors allow you to get into smaller details such as the strawberry leaves and the strawberry itself for the appliqué. Now to add the appliqué on, I'm using my optional stitch guide just so I could get a rough idea of where the fabric bookmark will place. You will then want to peel the paper backing off your appliqué pieces and just put them into place for now, just to get a rough idea. So they're not stuck at the minute until you iron it in place. So just figure out where you want it to go. And with your iron, again, just press it, hold it for a couple of seconds and move on. So this will then melt the glue adhesive that's on the back of the piece. So now it's stuck in place. They do sit really well. So once you've kind of got this down, you're unlikely to move it. Take it over to your sewing machine and just stitch around the outside. So I'm using a white contrasting thread, so you can add it as a bit of a sketch line. I do a double line, so for here I'm using my straight foot, go around the edge, put the needle down, turn it back around and then try and stitch over your line as best as you can. I do actually prefer to use a free motion sewing foot for something like this, so The lines are never perfect, but I like that style personally, to add a little hand sketch kind of look to the piece. With all of this, just take your time, keep the needle down for when you need to rotate it, especially for when you're going around the leaf, because it is quite fiddly. Use your hand wheel to help with the needle in the smaller parts. Take your time, keep your needle down, and you'll be good to go. And if it's not perfect, it's okay, because I feel like it does add to how the bookmark finishes at the end. For the seeds, just use a back and forth motion. So I have swapped to the free motion sewing foot here, so I can just push and pull the fabric to move back and forth. But you can also use the lever that you'd usually do to secure your stitch at the start and end of a project, just to go back and forth over the same lines. Snip off all of the loose threads and give it a good press with your iron. Next, with your two main fabric pieces, put them right sized together. An optional step is to draw around the straight stitch guide using your heat erasable pen. This will just give you a line to follow when you're on the sewing machine, so just mark either side, make sure it's in line okay with the strawberries that you've added on, and draw around using a heat erasable pen. Alternatively, you can use your sewing foot as a guide as well. That's usually what I tend to do, especially with this one being a straight rectangle, it's a little bit easier. So you'd line up the edge of the fabric with your sewing foot and use that as your straight line guide. You'll want to leave about a 5cm gap so that you can turn your bookmark the right way around. So I like to mark these with the heat erasable pen just so I remember. Pin it in place and stitch on your sewing machine. When it comes to sewing the corners, just make sure your needle is in a position down, so I use the lever for this side. Pivot the piece of fabric and then you can start stitching along the next edge. Snip the corners of the fabric so that it reduces the bulk. It's also optional here, as we will be top stitching anyway, so that should secure the fabric with stop any sort of fraying. But I went around mine with the pink in shears. When trimming off excess fabric, just make sure that you don't cut into your stitch line that you've just created. So you want to just reduce the fabric but keep it far away enough where you're not interfering with any of the stitches. Give it a quick press just to remove the heat erasable pen lines so that they now disappear. Using the gap that we left in the stitching, you now want to turn your bookmark the right way around. So just take your time so that you don't rip any of the fabric stitching or the fabric itself. I find it easy to use a knitting needle or something similar, just so that when you turn it the right way around you can get right into the edges and create a square corner. I also like to use a knitting needle just to roll along the seam line, just to push it out a little bit more to get rid of any sort of the bulk. You can also use your fingers to do this as well, so if you roll the fabric in between your fingers just to create a nice straight line. Turn over the opening so that it's in line with the rest of your pieces as well. We'll press this down in place and then we will top stitch everything over to secure it all together. The top stitch, I'm using the same white thread. I've lined it up with the metal sewing foot underneath, but if you will find it easier Just use your heat erasable pen to draw a straight line for where you want to top stitch over. Take your time here just to sew the straight lines as best as you can. When it comes to the corner, because of the fabric bulk, you may notice that when you put your pedal down, the piece doesn't actually move as it should do. So in this instance, just use your wheel for the needle and lift the foot up just to help guide it along and create the stitch lines yourself. And then when you notice that the teeth underneath the fabric do guide it along automatically, then you can use your sewing pedal again. With the corners, just as before, sew to the end, put your needle in a position down, pivot the fabric, and then move on to your next step. Sew around all 4 sides just to close up the opening that we left before. Snip off the loose threads, give it a good press. With everything that you do, you give everything a good press before the next stage, and your bookmark is finished.